Lauren Flanagan, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Peter. I'm delighted to be here with you.
It's great to have you. So I can see Sesame Solar specializes in off-grid solutions. Tell us why that's so important.
Yeah, well, we're trying to decarbonize off-grid power. Our go-to-market has really been decarbonizing disaster response, because typically what we do today after, let's say, a hurricane or wildfire or floods or other kinds of storms or extreme weather events is power goes out, we might lose communications, we might have lack of water. And what do? We send out various fossil fuel powered resources. We hand out diesel generators. We have all kinds of gas. And we do that because it's ubiquitous and easy to use. But in fact, there's a lot of toxic particulate in the air and water that's emitted and a lot of CO2, which in turn just contributes to climate change, which causes these extreme weather events. So it's like a dirty cycle. And just one 5 kilowatt generator is equal to the emissions of 450 cars. So, I mean, actually, you're talking about a lot of global impact, not only disaster response, but from all kinds of global generator use. So, if we can break that cycle with solutions that are easy to use and fast to deploy so that we can actually make the case for replacing fossil fuel generators, then we could cut millions of tons of CO2 out of the atmosphere. So that was our reason to start, first for disaster, but then we realized that same technology is applicable to many other industry segments for off-grid power needs.
Very good. It sounds super important. What was the biggest challenge? Was it a cost challenge getting to where the diesel gen set is, or what was the biggest obstacle for you guys to get going with this?
Making it fast to deploy and easy to use. So it needs to be a combination of high tech, low tech. Because in an emergency, was again our go-to-market example, you're not reading the manual, right? You're not. There might not be trained people around, and you're trying to make something work. And most people can figure out a generator or have used one. So trying to make it simple with just a few flips of a button or a switch, and it's, as we say, open sesame, and the power is deployed and the services are delivered was important. Cost, it's really not just a generator, because what we also did was say, all right, when you lose power, what else do you need? Typically communications are out. There's no clean water. You might need medical or emergency help. So putting that all in a package that was a turnkey solution, then it's not an apples to apples of generator versus solar and battery or hydrogen. It is the complete solution, which would be like the medical trailer or the communications trailer or whatever, all also powered by diesel. So we came up with these really complete solutions. And then again, as I mentioned in other markets, it could be a construction trailer. It could be where we've been asked by the entertainment business to have clean mobile power for, what they're using big diesel generators today for big film sets. So yeah, there's a lot of different applications in markets, and there are many places around the world where the grid is unreliable or just doesn't exist and they're using diesel power. So there's a huge market need, and trying to figure out how to make it fast to deploy, easy to use, easy to transport. One person can set it up in 15 minutes or less. These were the things that we were trying to achieve, is if you can do that, you've got the answer to a very big and thorny problem.
Yeah, a huge problem, and it's getting bigger. We see the grid going down more and more, being more unreliable. Of course, we've seen the big events in Texas. Have you guys been involved in helping with any of those kind of challenges when, like the winter storm in Texas or some of these other storms we're seeing this year?
Well, our customers are. So some of our customers like Comcast and Cox are taking them all over the country. They were there for the hurricanes in Louisiana and Florida, providing help to hundreds of people a day using our mobile nanogrids. They call them crisis response centers. And Cox has been all over the country with theirs to help with wildfires and having the communications up, because you need to have that communication on top. When you're in an emergency, you got to let your friends and family know you're okay, or find out where to get help, or where's the shelter. And maybe your phone's dead, or you're out of your home and you can't charge it somewhere. So those kinds of things are being done. And then we have DOD military, and they're taking it to many locations. And Then recently this year, we brought in some county emergency offices. So one of our first was Santa Barbara County Office of Emergency Management. We added Imperial County in California. We have several others in process. So these counties are first to disaster. For Santa Barbara, for example, they've had big atmospheric river storm floods that had to evacuate whole cities. They've had terrible wildfires. They've had all kinds of issues there. They had a big oil spill. They were actually the innovators of Earth Day after that oil spill. So these counties are, first on the, Johnny on the spot, so to speak, after these events. And being able to have clean mobile power that's renewable helps them have more energy independence for a greater period of time when fossil fuels might not be available. But they also have state mandates for increased energy resiliency and getting off fossil fuels. So being able to deploy these type of solutions help them achieve those goals of resiliency and becoming fossil fuel free.
No, for sure, that makes sense, when I first heard of your solution, I figured, first of all, you've got the name solar, so I said, "Oh, it's gotta be solar," and then I said to myself, "There's gotta be batteries involved," but then I saw on your website green hydrogen. Is it you guys using hydrogen now, and how's that going?
Yeah, we launched last year. That was a major event. We're actually in It was actually in June of 2022, we launched the world's first mobile green hydrogen solution. So we actually produce hydrogen gas through electrolysis of water on our nanogrid, and then we compress it and dry it and store it at low pressure so it's safe to transport. So it's stored as a solid. And then we use that to power a hydrogen fuel cell. So that provides two ways to charge our battery. In normal conditions where there's plenty of sun, it's going to run off solar. But at night, or there's peak demand and not enough sunshine, or bad weather, or it could be a wildfire where the skies are smoky and the solar panels are less efficient. They kick on the hydrogen fuel cell and it can charge the battery. So what does that mean? Continuous power. And then last year, we innovated integration of atmospheric water generation. So to do the electrolysis of water, you need water, and it has to be deionized water. And so that's not always available either in an emergency. Normally, it's pretty readily available. But by making water out of the air and then deionizing it, we can make the water we need to make the hydrogen gas we need to, produce the power and to be stored for the fuel cell. So this is really just running on water and air and sunshine. So you really just need the sun and a reasonable temperature and humidity in the air. And you can run pretty much indefinitely if you have system sized the load to the batteries and the power regeneration.
Wow, incredible. So it can just run continuously. So it really is every bit as good as a diesel genset. I've actually not heard of others turning hydrogen into a solid that way. That's very innovative. Is that your technology, or are you guys integrating other technologies?
We integrate other technologies. We can also do high pressure ones because some folks want that because they're set up with, various hydrogen supply chain. But the solid state means it can travel, which for emergency, counties and government entities and big companies, that's great. They don't have to have special licenses or drivers. But on the other hand, the high pressure, which is also an option, if there are any refueling stations, they can use that. So we have different options. Our whole thing is to integrate all these components into an easy to use, fast to deploy solution and not be married to any one. We like to say we're component agnostic because if you have to do the R&D on all these components, you need billions of dollars and that's just crazy. So why not use the best of breed of everything that's out there? And we're innovative in figuring out how to match it all up. Like, people try to make hydrogen primary power, which is great if it's stationary, but it's not as efficient as solar to battery. But if you use it as a backup just to help the peak needs, that's actually a great way to do it, particularly if you've stored it and you've system sized it so that the rate that you're consuming the stored hydrogen, you're making new hydrogen. And then you can keep replenishing that. And then you're replenishing the water from the air as you need it. So that's how you can have this kind of evergreen loop, if you will. But it depends on everything being system size. Obviously, if you have some huge peak load, it could consume more than you could replenish. So then you may have to top it up the fluids or top up the hydrogen. But, in a good situation where it's all running the way it was designed, it can run near continuously.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Over the years, have you seen the costs of, let's say, solar and batteries? Have you seen those come down over time?
They've come down, though not as much as, the media likes to portray it. And compared to 10 or 15 years ago, yeah, it's way down. It's come down some over the last 5, 6 years, but it still can go further, I think. As there become more competitors on the market, I think prices will go down.
Gotcha. Well, I've been geeking out on the tech because I love this stuff. But what a lot of people like to know about is how did you get the business started? Starting companies is so hard. There's so many people out there that wanted lots of people in the corporate world, especially in the energy sector, want to start their own companies. How did you get started? And would you have any advice for entrepreneurs trying to get going with something new like this?
Yeah, so I like to solve a very specific problem where you can succeed or fail fast. And that's kind of advice I would give an entrepreneur to instead of saying, oh, I'm going to solve this huge problem. We started with a very narrow one. What if we could, for disasters, replace a generator? What would it take? And how could we do that? And how could we do it in a way that would be productized and scalable versus a one off and each one custom made? And that then we said, and if we're successful, it could be translated to other vertical markets. So that was kind of like the founding hypothesis. And then we said, let's try it out in the Caribbean first, because if we can't make it there, we don't have a business. So Hurricane Maria hit in 2018. And that was our very first two deployments in the island of Dominica, which had been devastated by Hurricane Maria. And we deployed a first one and then a second one in conjunction with Direct Relief, which is the largest US medical charity. And we were backing up a remote clinic, kind of in an area of the island where the roads have been washed out. And so what they call a clinic to us would just be a building that has some doctors and nurses and beds. And there's not like high end x ray and, all this high end equipment we're used to, MRIs or anything like that. And we put in a nanogrid that, and they also had no clean water. They were boiling rainwater capture. So we put in a nanogrid that was backup power because their grid was down, but they also could use it as triage for handling certain patients there. And we had refrigeration for medicines like insulin when their power went out. We put in Wi-Fi and we took our solar powered pump and we took the water from that rainwater and put it through multi-level filtration so it was potable. So they could use that for the, hand washing and things like that they were using. So we provided a complete solution. It's still running today. So I was like, okay, if we fail there, we can have some good learnings. But it was austere. I mean, it was hard to get it there on a trucks and ships, different ports. Finally got it on a rickety old truck, which broke down. Had to get the truck repaired up this road that if you looked over it, you'd be saying whatever religion you are, me, Hail Marys and, count your rosaries. But then we finally got up there. There's no hotel, nothing. The guys had to zip line into an eco lodge where the bath was a dammed up creek. And, it was rigorous, right? So, but it's a disaster. That's how you learn. And the whole town came out and they'd put in a pad. So that was like a big deal. Actually, one of the hardest things was getting a level pad put in because they were going to keep this containerized version there for pretty much all the time. And then hooking it all up and it just worked and it's still working. So it was a very discrete problem. There's still a lot of learnings, many ways we can improve what we first did. We're many generations ahead. But to me, the good thing is it's still operational. It might not be ideal, but it's running, since that's like 4 years now. So that's fantastic. And so that's how you think about it, like a very specific problem. How could we do it? And we've replicated and improved and innovated and made it much more modular and plug and play since then. And then we realized, yeah, I mean, anybody that needs off grid power, whether it's construction office or, any kind of mobile medical clinic, could have been for vaccinations or testing during COVID. You could put many things and applications in these besides the power to serve community needs. So that's how we got started. And we quickly got revenues from different I'm old school, like get revenues. I know you said you're an investment banker. I'm like, you raise that lot of money when you need it to really scale. And in the beginning, you try to get customer buy-in who will pay you for being part of the early learnings and helping out. And so that's what we did. We got early customers to back us. We got some big communications companies. We got some channel partners. We've sold more than 60 some and we've deployed most of those. So we're not a startup anymore. And it's always been profitable unit economics. That's another thing I would say, especially in these days when capital is challenging. Make sure you have profitable unit economics and keep your costs down. So then your amount of capital you have to raise is less, it's less dilutive. And then you can increase the number of transactions till the company's profitable. We've been operating pretty close to break even the last few years. And then when you've really got that formula, then go out and get the really big money so you can go bang. And that's actually our plans. I mean, we've done everything that we've done on about 3 million in capital, which is pretty amazing because we've had a lot of revenues, right? So we've been able to do that. And it will be probably later this year we will look to do some larger fundraise, but we're trying to get some strategic channel partners in place. We have signed different vertical markets, some geographic markets. We brought folks on from Indonesia, the Philippines. We just signed an agency in Canada. We're in discussion in some other locations. So both vertical and geographic markets where we can extend the feet on the street, looking at some distribution partnerships in the power rentals market. So these are things that will really change the go-to-market footprint, change our distribution method. And then, of course, that makes it when you've got distribution and a great product, bang, you guys, you investment bankers, you love it. So it's all about getting that distribution once you've got the product market fit.
I'll tell you, a lot of entrepreneurs could learn from that for sure. The best money you could possibly get is from customers. And often I tell people from suppliers as well, because many times suppliers are incentivized to help you. And that early sort street fight mentality, I think, is what companies have to have. And of course, the unit economics, that one is a hard one to fix. If a company has really poor unit economics, usually it doesn't get any better at scale. So I couldn't agree more with your strategy and staying lean until you get to the point where you're ready to scale up. And so that's absolutely right. I saw from your LinkedIn profile that you've been helping some female entrepreneurs. Could you maybe talk about that initiative?
Sure. So I've been on the board of Springboard Enterprises for about 15 years, and they're a leading catalyst accelerator for women led technology companies. We've helped about, I think, 900 and some women led companies.
Wow.
We've had, I think, 27 IPOs. We currently have 10 unicorns in it. We've had more than 250, maybe close to 300 positive transactions. So it's been a very successful record. Been on the board and actively helped a lot of those companies. I've started a couple of angel funds of women investing in women led technology companies, both to provide greater access to capital, but also for women to learn more about investing. We have a lot of the money and we're more conservative in general on doing these early stage and angel investments. So I'm like, look, you got all these alternative investments. You don't even know what they are. Take some of that stuff out and put it in things that you can learn about and be involved in and have an impact. So that's something that I've been doing in addition to deciding to start Sesame Solar, be co-founder. But yeah, I'm committed to that. I mean, that was my big chapter, I would say, the last, from 2000 until I really started Sesame. And now I'm really about what can I do to help with climate change and mitigate the impacts. So these are like my legacy activities. I like to, have triple bottom line companies when it's possible. I mean, our motto at Sesame is, people, planet, profits. So the people are our most valuable asset, our team members, our customers, our partners, our suppliers, our investors, our communities. Of course, we're trying to help the planet by mitigating the impacts of climate change. And then profitable operations allow us to continue to innovate. And so those are like big mantra for us. That's our triple bottom line. And so I like to do those things. And so, I always say swing big, go for some big problems that you can solve, because that's your legacy. Like, why are we here? Let's make the world a little better. And let's not just make another mousetrap, but let's make innovative things that make lives better and help big problems. So that's what gets me up in the morning, gets me going. I'm pretty excited to be doing it. Don't see myself stopping anytime soon, and love what I'm doing every day.
Now that is great. And that the mission of the company is so important to motivate people. Have you seen that in terms of attracting folks that come to work for you, that you're by having that mission, you're attracting better quality person that stays with the company for the long run?
I think it's helpful, in the skilled trades where we have a lot because we make stuff right in a factory. That I don't think they necessarily come for that reason. They come for a job. I mean, just being very straightforward and honest. But I think when they realize, oh my gosh, I'm helping emergency responders, I'm helping the military, there's a pride in that. It's like, oh, I'm making a difference. So I think that's helpful. It helps have purpose in work. And it certainly helps in the sales and marketing type folks as they are very excited about that. But even in, fabricators, welders, and electrical workers, we all want to have pride in our work. And I think doing something that you know is important is helpful and conveying the mission. I come in regularly. I'm always telling them where we're at, what's the latest in our mission. We're very transparent. Everybody knows all of the most junior team member knows our sales, knows where we're at in terms of our goals. And we have updates on a regular basis. So I believe in that of really treating people with respect and as a team and keeping them fully informed and feeling proud of the work that they do.
For sure, true. And that magic word of ownership, if you can get everybody in the company to take ownership and behave like an owner, then you have something magic there. I noted that you're calling in from a factory today, or
Yeah. Why it's so
facility.
dark and dingy and gray in here because it's cheap rent.
And so, tell me
That's
about
right,
that
that lot.
place.
We're making stuff. We have some orders about to ship out. We have one ready to go to the Air Force, and we've got 6 more in process right now, and we're busy. I mean, we need to be hundreds, but we've gone from a few a year to dozens a year to, getting to hundreds now, and, this is all takes time and learning, and, we've gone from a small facility of 4,000 square feet to we're just under 40 and we need to grow bigger. So, it's step by step, but low rents, cheap furniture from University of Michigan surplus and a lot of used old but great tools that we get. So we're very creative about how to get more bang out of the buck.
Wow, that is awesome. So, in that facility there, are you gonna be able to scale up? Will you be able to stay in that location?
We can probably stay for up to a year, but we're already looking around because you got to be looking. And we could always add more shifts, go from a single shift to double shift or triple shift, which is very common. We're in auto industry territory. So people are used to working second and third shift. I would like to avoid that for as long as possible, but at some point that could be necessity. But another advantage of being in Michigan is because it's the auto industry, there are a lot of tier one suppliers who have excess capacity. So you can outsource some more labor intensive subassemblies and then be able to have to do less fabrication and more just pure assembly. That's more productive. And you're also, to your point of using vendors' money, it's their capital and their people and their inventory management to supply us where we pay it when we need it and get it just in time. So it's challenging to manage that, but that is great until you have enough capital that you can make the leap to become vertically integrated. But in the earlier days, it's better to use your partner suppliers' capital to help you and to be able to extend your team without just like we have channel partners, we have tier one subassembly suppliers. Those are feet on the street or feet on the floor that aren't on our payroll.
That's great. So, on top of the decarbonization story, you've got this US manufacturing story as well, which I think is another huge trend we're seeing. Of course, there's so much pride in physically making stuff, and hopefully that'll continue to happen as a trend in our country because I think we certainly do need it.
Oh, I'm all about made in USA. I'm a native Californian and I started all my software companies there, but I wouldn't do a manufacturing business there because just the cost of operation is too high. But here in Michigan, we've got a great labor force. We've got the great, subassembly and tier one suppliers. So it's the Midwest in general, the old Rust Belt. It's actually a great place for new manufacturing, for revival. And we got a lot of water, which is a big problem in the world, but we got the Great Lakes here. So there's a lot of things to be said. Even though it's 3 degrees today and snow, overall, this is a great location to be in. And we're very proud to be manufacturing not only in the USA, but in pure Michigan.
Very good. And we'll have to give a shout out to the Michigan Wolverines that just won the national title. I don't know if you're a Wolverines fan, but my brothers are all from Ohio, so they're Ohio State fans, but they were still pulling for Michigan anyway.
Yeah, hail to the champions. I'm from the Bay Area, so I'm Cal Berkeley and 49ers, but I'm glad the Lions won and I was but yeah, let's go Niners, absolutely.
Very good. Well, before I let you go, I have to ask you, where do you think the next wave of growth is coming, or what's the future of the company look like? Are you going to continue to scale up products you have now with your existing customers? Are you going to push into new markets? Are you going to develop new products? Where's it going in the future?
Well, kind of all of the above. I guess the next major innovation is really, and we're building some for Army, is really unmanned operations that, and then ultimately could be autonomous. That takes a lot to have sensors and everything to be able to do it, but at least to be able to leave it for extended periods in a location. We've been building all that up in our software platform for remote monitoring and management of systems. So that's a big improvement. Is really adding a very valuable software layer of management, but also data aggregation. Like if you go ask FEMA, how much do they spend on diesel fuel? They can't tell you, but they don't have a way of tracking of what they're spending after an emergency. Whereas our software is going to track kilowatts produced, kilowatts consumed, how much from solar, how much from hydrogen, how many tons of CO2 were saved. What's the amount of gallons of diesel or other gas fuel was saved? What's the cost savings of that? How much uptime did we have? Where was it? All of those things are going to be really interesting data aggregation. So as we grow and have more installations, we'll have an extremely valuable database about, what this means and what impact it can have, which will be justification for further investment.
That totally makes sense. Lauren, this has really been good having you on. Thank you so much for being on the show. Company is Sesame Solar. Everybody check out the website. It's Lauren Flanagan on LinkedIn. And Lauren, is there anything you'd like to leave the audience with or anything else you'd like them to go check out?
Hey, we're hiring. So if you'd like to join a great company, People Planet Profits, a lot of work is remote work and sales and marketing. Of course, anything factory, engineering, manufacturing is pretty much mostly in Michigan. But please reach out to us. It's work at sesame.solar, and we'd love to hear from you.
Very good. Thanks for being on, Lauren. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Peter. It was fun.